I'm Matt Reynolds, and this is my podcast. Stefan Kazakis, thanks for doing this. Now, we're in your boardroom in your offices in Doncaster this morning. Thank you for having me in. First time we've met. Now, I did a little bit of looking on your website before I came in, and you invite business owners to come in and have a coffee and chat about what they do in their business. When typically does a business call you for a caffeine fix?
That's a really good way of putting it, Matt, and thank you for having me here to begin with. Look, the general reason why business owners, particularly business owners that we or I guess, catch up and have a chat, let's call it that coffee meeting, is not so much when they're broken. It's the business owners that we work with are committed, dedicated, hard-working business owners who are on their way to something, building something, but they're at a crossroad. It's not exactly broken. It's not exactly giving them what they want or what they had hoped it would give them as a business and their quality of life. So generally it's when business owners are at a crossroad to go to the next level. And when you're going to the next level, there's a couple of things that play out. It's the type of customer you want to be serving to give you the opportunity to keep on growing your reputation. But it's also the type of people you need in your business to give you a better utilisation and or a better effectiveness for your success and ultimately building that reputation. So generally we meet people that need a better quality of customer and ultimately a better quality of team member within their organisation. They're the two key reasons, although they don't really know that.
And is there a typical size business that comes to you? Or are those problems the same no matter what the size is? It's just relative.
Look, the typical size is anywhere between $1 to $10 million in revenue, just as a reference point. Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, 5 to 10 people on the team, albeit we do work with companies that are at 100 million and 300 to 400 people on the team as well. So when we say typical, it definitely slants towards small, medium enterprise.
Yep.
And it's generally that $1 to $20 million that we're doing a really good job with in being their outsourced CEO and holding them to account with better scoreboards and better activities and ultimately a really clear understanding of how is this playing out with the numbers in the business.
So your business is like outsourcing, as you just said, a board, right?
Correct.
In a small business, you obviously can't afford to have... How many team members have you got here?
We have 7 and we're just about to hire 2 more. Okay. And generally speaking, 4 of us are involved as senior strategists, as senior tacticians in people's businesses to help them, again, confirm a plan, action a plan, be accountable to a plan, but also be in a situation where we're measuring and correcting so we come back and have a better version of execution against the plan.
And how involved do you get in the businesses that you work with?
Look, we have a saying, if our vision of our client's business is greater than their vision of their business, we have a problem. So we stay as involved and as objective to ensure that the total ownership of what happens between our meetings, our sessions, which is generally fortnights apart, are generally in the hands of the business owner and or their leadership team to execute. What happens from that execution is they come back and they confirm, did we or did we not do what we were meant to do? So the whole aspect of accountability and also clarity as to what are we working on. So our involvement is making sure that, okay, what we decided was the plan, what we actually went out and executed as far as our activities, what actually happened versus what we thought would happen.
Okay.
So again, true to a CEO and or a general management perspective, we're looking at things from a very, okay, how does this support the goal that we're trying to achieve?
Yeah.
How do we support the financial, freedom? How do we support the growing of a team that has, a line of A graders wanting to join the team?
Yeah.
But most importantly, how do we ensure that we're building a reputation that has a line of A grade customers, ideal customers wanting to do business with us?
How do you define an A grade customer?
Well, that's a very good question. So for every business, that's very different. And to give you a really good example there, we're at Westfield. Our offices here are at Westfield, Doncaster.
Yep.
Downstairs, there's 3 $2 shops.
Okay.
And this is a really cool example. So if you went into the centre and you visited every $2 shop, you will discover that there's a very different target market customer for each $2 shop downstairs. So dependent upon the owner, dependent against the vision and or the plan as to who is the customer that we wish to serve.
Okay.
How is it that we're going to serve them? How is it that we stay memorable in their mind determines what is an A-grade customer.
So it's different for every business, is what you're saying?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Look, we work with a lot of trade businesses, a lot of professional services, a lot of manufacturing businesses, and every one of those has a very distinct version of what is their ideal customer.
So one of the observations I've made through doing a series of these interviews with people who are successful and certainly working in that space is that the success of your business almost seems to be tied to how well you know yourself. Would that be a fair statement? And also where you want to go?
Oh, look, travelling the world doing what I do, Matt, I'm yet to see a bad business. But what I generally get to see, and I'm okay, because I can't be a judge of this, is not so qualified business owners making bad business decisions. So it's the stuff that we don't know that ultimately gets in our way of what is a successful outcome. And for most business owners, we sort of get caught up in the day-to-day and I guess the challenge of having made decisions that didn't work and the inertia of not wanting to make another decision because I'm just not good at this. So there's no such thing as a bad business, but there is an opportunity to be a better business owner making better business decisions. So definitely understanding yourself, your strengths, and what is it that you need to fill the void of your weaknesses, let's call it, is what makes a difference. So many business owners do get advice on working on their weaknesses. And in my opinion, we have strengths for a certain reason. Why don't they become the sole focus of what you do as a leader in your business and complement yourself with areas that need, improvement or topping up, which means you've got to have a really good grip on who you are as an individual and your leadership style or your management style or your best employee in the business style to ensure you keep on focusing on that while you support yourself with building a team that focuses on the other things. That's definitely about knowing yourself.
So you seem to have, and this is the first time I met you, so I don't actually know personally, but you seem to have a bit of a reputation for being very good at delegation. So is there a system that sits behind that? Because it seemed like within that answer you were saying that you want to stick with your strengths and you want to get rid of the rest to more qualified people, if that's putting it in really, really simple terms. Correct?
Absolutely. More qualified is a reference point. More dedicated to doing the things that you don't like doing is another way of looking at it.
Probably more important, right?
And if you're the owner of a business, sometimes the fallacy is, oh, no, I've got it. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. Or, if I work harder, they'll work harder. And that's just, that was true in the 1970s and even 1960s. But where we are right now, delegation and giving people an opportunity to, perform better today at what it is that they're responsible for is the way of the game and the way of the game going forward. So the better I stick to what I'm really good at and empower you and give you an opportunity to be better at what you're doing today, so you have a better version of it tomorrow, that's definitely going to win the game. So the tool that we generally refer to is what would your perfect calendar look like? So in the first book that I wrote, I really go into detail around what does a perfect calendar look like. Now, perfect calendar isn't about utopia or let's sit by the campfire singing Kumbaya. I mean, this is business and it's about 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours of highly effective, highly efficient time being used. Now, because we're humans, there's going to be downtime. There's going to be interruption time. There's going to be distraction time. So if we look at our perfect calendars and say, okay, what would it look like if 70% of our hours in the business were very focused on our top 3 to 5 activities?
Okay, so you're not even shooting for 100% from the start.
No chance. There is no, 23 years down the track in being a student to the perfect calendar model, I'm striking at about 86% right now.
Okay.
So our meeting this morning was at 9:30. We started at 9:32.
Well, you're late.
That's correct. So that's not as bad as 70% though, is it?
No, that's right.
So it's okay. Again, the unforgiving aspect of, oh no, I need to be regimented. No, we're human beings. We need to give ourselves the flexibility of not being perfect, and this is where half the issue is. So if I create a calendar that's 70% perfect, and then every other day I am measuring in the actual One's the perfect calendar, the other one's the actual.
Yep.
What am I doing versus what I thought I would be doing?
Yeah.
How am I executing versus what I thought I'd be executing? How am I trending as a ratio? No different to a financial budget.
Yes.
What did I think will happen versus what is actually happening?
So think of time as money, which is actually what it is anyway. So.
Yeah, and think of money in 60-minute increments.
Okay.
So 60 minutes on, 30 minutes off.
Yep.
60 minutes on, 30 minutes off. Now that roughly equals 66%. I don't want to get too caught up in the numbers here.
Yes.
But it just paints a picture. Because as human beings, you will get that mobile phone ringing. You will have an urge to go to the toilet. You might need to have a break, and you should.
Yeah.
So if you think about 60 minutes on, but highly effective, what are the 2-3 things I'm doing in this 60 minutes? And this is the desired outcome. Plan.
Uh-huh.
What's actually happening? So that's a methodology or a tool that we call the perfect calendar, but only 3 to 5 key activities throughout the week.
So a lot of business owners that would come to you, I'm assuming, would have a list that's a lot longer than 3 to 5, right? So you have to get rid of the other 10 or 15. What's the process of doing that?
Well, we help them understand, okay, on a typical day, in a typical month, what are the top 10 things that you do?
Yeah. And what would be an example of a couple of those?
Buying the milk for the fridge.
Yep.
Opening the doors in the morning.
Yep.
Signing the check.
Uh-huh.
Making the best sale. Handing over to the operations team. Occasionally getting caught up in the operational team. Writing the invoice.
Yep.
Ringing the debtor to collect the payment. Some of your typical, just loosely speaking.
Yep.
And what we say is, okay, well, that's coverage across the 3 key areas of business.
Uh-huh.
What is it as a leader and an owner that are your most relevant 3?
Okay.
So we get them to make a list of 10.
Yep.
And then we say, okay, pick your relevant 3. And what's the relevant 3? The ones that you have better income generating opportunity, better highly rate in dollar terms. What is the value that you provide makes it the relevant 3.
Yep.
So for most owners, particularly business owners that are running businesses under $10 million, under $20 million, Matt, the most relevant thing that they do is keep on focusing on growing resources. So growing people.
Yep.
If I'm investing an hour with you, if you're on my team and I'm investing an hour with you every week,
Yep.
half an hour with you every week, just confirming how are you going versus how you could be going. What is it that you need to share with me so that I'm understanding you better?
Mm-hmm.
How is it that I can provide better tools for you? How is it that we as a team, as an organisation, could be performing better?
Yep.
If I'm investing 1 hour with you every week, that's roughly about 46 to 48 hours a year.
Yep.
What do you think happens to you if you're on my team?
If I'm on your team, I'm first of all going to feel that my opinion and my voice is heard, and that I have at least an opportunity to make a contribution to where we're going.
Correct. And if that is what occurs mentally, then physically, we're going to be in a position where you contribute more. Because
Okay.
it's a live conversation week on week.
Yep.
So that's called growing resources. And most business owners, they would love to do it.
Yep.
Or even the ones that feel that they've got a dysfunctional team and they can't believe that these guys are on their team. And guys means girls as well, by the way.
Yes.
So they neglect the most important task in their business, and that's growing people.
Okay.
As it is, in most small businesses, the owner of the business in the first and second and third phase of business, they are the best front man or salesperson in their business. They make it easy for the outside world to buy in because they still have the underlying passion for their business. They're the best representative for their business. So that's how we ensure that our business owners and leaders ensure that they're creating a list that's called what are the top 10 things that you do each week?
Yep.
And how do we sandwich that down to the relevant 3, which is an hourly rate identity.
Okay.
And if we focus on what is your highest hourly rate identity by 3 to 5 key activities, what that actually means is we start shaping your diary, your perfect diary, against those 3s. And guess what? Why don't you pick 2 more that you love doing, and we'll keep them as number 4 and number 5. You're allowed to do them, but only 10% of the week.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's structuring. It's probably structuring what you know you should be doing, but never get around to doing it.
Correct. Because we're always caught up in the urgent.
So this. So the delegation. Come back to the delegation question. Those other things need to be done by other people. So
if it's a delegation,
Yep.
if it's a delegation and you're in small business, you're not at a stage where a robot will do it.
Yep.
There is an opportunity to keep on improving systems, and by systems is also an aspect of automation.
Yes.
So there is an element of system improvement. And our saying is great systems followed by good people that know what they're there to do.
Yep.
And ultimately are clear about their responsibilities.
Yes.
And how they get measured for results. So great systems, good people, eventually great systems, great people,
Yep.
influencing a better version of great systems. And that's how we keep on lifting the standard.
One grows the other.
Totally. But the very and most important part about that is you've got to be okay to be investing in systems. Predictability.
So I had a question here to ask you about why many businesses fail to scale. Why is that difficult? They're not prioritising their diary. Is that one key aspect? What are the general sort of things that you see? Because I'm assuming that, let's say a trade business of 2 to 5 people comes to you. Is there a common set of 3 or 4 problems that everyone has, that everyone needs to get over and improve on and get better on to grow?
Yeah, so the aspect of scale is about resources being duplicated. So the key to scalability is definitely around having a organisational chart, evolution. In our business, at Business Benchmark Group, we focus on what we call the cluster. Okay. So in any walk in life, the best number of people in any cluster is a group of 7.
Okay, that's an army. It comes from an.
Well, there is a strategic element to this,
yes.
which goes back to military and and ultimately it's about relationships.
Yes.
And without getting into too much detail, the formula for relationships equals this: x squared minus x divided by 2. So a group of 7 squared equals 49, minus 7 equals 42, divided by 2 equals 21 relationships.
Okay.
So many of us get to the end of a day and we think, oh, you won't believe what happened to us today. You will not believe. You go home, you kick the cat, you talk to your husband, you talk to your wife, and you're complaining about, you will not believe what happened in the office today.
Yep.
I got nothing done. I just got caught up in all the bullshit.
Yep.
In fairness, the cluster in that business has got about 10 people in it, 15 people in it. There's been no middle management approach or middle tier approach.
Yep.
And it's not about down, up, down, or down, up. It's about how do you ensure you're managing an inclusion environment. So scalability is when you understand that 21 relationships is a heap of relationships that need to be managed, all moving in the same direction, strategic, but being tactful as to what needs to be done every day.
Okay.
Anything more than that, you're going to get inertia and procrastination and leaks.
Yes.
Which means you're not going to scale.
So to scale, you need to divide the teams.
Yes, divide to conquer is another, or divide to scale in business and being commercial. So out of your bottom tier becomes your future leaders. Right. So if you keep on investing in the next tier and the next tier under that, you get your future leaders coming out of the first or bottom tier. They become your future leaders that become the leaders of another tier.
Right.
Now, that doesn't happen immediately, but over the course of 2 to 3 years, as the leadership team is out there growing business opportunity, because we can, as the back end part of the business is delivering on opportunity and growing reputation, and we're growing people, which ultimately become leaders of future people in our team, there's your scalability model. Okay. And we have plenty of examples, and particularly, across the board. I mean, I've just come from a meeting where, one of our clients has gone from 5 million to 15 to 42, and now they're trending to $80 million in the space of 6 years.
Okay.
And in saying that, the owner has got more time on their hands right now to be thinking about, okay, we've just structured ourselves in Fiji, in the Philippines, and we've got our China, manufacturing plant up and running. Our management team's still in Melbourne. We're now setting up a management team in Sydney for some of the local opportunities there. He's doing less hands-on work today than he used to, but his middle tier has continued to scale on the back of the cluster system.
Have you worked with that business through that period, the
Absolutely.
entire period? Oh, you
Yeah.
have? Okay.
Yeah, and that's one example, Matt.
Yep.
We have trade-based businesses, which I understand you're aware of intimately, that
Yep.
that they've knocked on our door where they had 10 or so people on the team holistically, internal, external.
Yep.
They're now moving towards 30 and 40 people on the team. Their business is 5 and 6 times the size it was, but the ownership and leadership teams, against that structured approach that I just shared with you,
Yep.
the cluster approach, is doing less and less hands-on work and more strategic business growth work.
Yep.
One of our clients, again, a formidable plumbing organisation that has got a significant niche, almost owns its niche in Melbourne and is now spreading across Australia. I remember working with that gentleman 9 years ago. We started where it was just him and 2 subcontractors, and he was working out of his flat in Ringwood, which is an eastern suburbs location here in Melbourne, and now he's just about to move into his new facility, which is going to house 80 odd people, and he's now set up in Sydney and Brisbane and expanding, and that's on the back of clusters, people leading people. Opportunities being seized and conquered as far as better quality customers who allow us to make margin and profit, so we're reinvesting back into the business. See, the quality of your customer will also determine the quality of your team. The quality of the leadership team will determine the quality of the customer that's ultimately led by a quality team. Does that make sense?
It does, which all stems from the intention, the standards that the business owner holds, probably first for themselves before anyone else.
Totally. And at some point, the owner's got to be okay, the original owner has got to be okay to stand aside and let this thing go.
That wouldn't be a problem at all, would it?
No, it is.
Business?
It's a massive... You got me.
Yeah.
So, what do you mean? So having born and bred in a family business, that again, it was never my intention to take over that business. To see what needed to happen for us to change the fate in the second generation was quite interesting, living that out in the early 90s. But ultimately, no, business owners definitely get in the way of opportunity and global opportunity at that, dare me say.
Now, I want to come to your family and business history in just a minute, but I've got one more question here to ask before we jump there. The foundation of what you teach and what you work with businesses on comes down to, as you define it, your 6 pillars. Is that the backbone of what you structure everything around? Yeah.
So we what we understand in business and small business, and it generally plays out in middle and definitely upper end business. There's 3 key areas in business.
Yep.
But there's 6 defining pillars within those 3 areas.
Okay.
And the first and the most important is operations. How will this business flow? How are we making decisions around the type of customer, the type of team, and how will we deliver on time and on budget?
Yep.
Thereafter is knowing, okay, well, how are we going to know, which is the finance pillar? How will we know that we're actually trending and confirming we're on the right path?
So the financial pillar scores the operational pillar.
Everything we do in business will end up being a number.
Yep.
Because the language of business, no matter what you do, is finance.
Yep.
So to have a base level of financial literacy and an appetite to look at the scoreboard and turn numbers into words, which is strategy,
Yep.
and words back into numbers, which is planning and execution and correction,
Yep.
right, is ultimately the key to the ultimate success. Okay. It's like playing football and watching the scoreboard.
Yep.
And all of a sudden the MCG scoreboard goes down.
Yeah.
Game's still a great game, but there's no scoreboard. Now what?
Yeah, there's no
right?
interest,
There's a problem.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Business is no different. Third pillar is marketing. Understanding who your ideal customer is,
Yep.
why we chose them, and how we're going to make it easy to attract them.
Yep.
Sales, how do we make it easy for them to buy? It's a model. It's a framework. It's not because you're a good salesperson that people buy from you.
Yes.
It's because you made it easy for them to buy. That's a system.
It's a, I know for myself, sometimes when you review what you're doing from the mindset of a customer, you can see how hard it is sometimes to do business with you, right? There's people are knocking down your door to give you money, and you do everything you can not to take it in some instances.
Correct. So sales is the 4th pillar. The 5th
Yep.
pillar is customer loyalty.
Yep.
The only time they ever come back and do more business with you is if you did the first time, second time, and the most recent time as you promised, and a little bit more.
Yep.
So they need to become advocates of your business. That is a significant pillar in business.
And that's
because if I don't need to reinvest marketing dollars and or effort to attract more customers because I'm keeping the one I've got, that's called the baseline of growth. Having them come back is critical. So customer loyalty is the fifth pillar. And the sixth, and fundamentally the one that gives us scale and opportunity to duplicate, is team. But not just team where arms and legs are counted, but heart and mind count.
Okay.
Team where they've got ownership in the mind and in the heart. And they behave in a certain way as if they had the key to the door and writing every single check that's needed in the business. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So how do you get your, this is a big question, I know, and probably complicated answer as well. How do you get your team on board with where you want to go? Is there some techniques around that?
Yeah, it's called be honest with them.
Okay. Broadly, be honest with them.
Transparent.
Okay.
Yeah, communication.
Yep.
So I'm having one-on-ones with you. I'm sharing with you with where we're going and how you fit into that and how I wish you could contribute at a higher level. And I'm going to give you every opportunity to do that. In a grander boardroom or team meeting, ensure that you are consistent with what is the truth.
Okay.
The transparency about what we need to be accountable to so that we have something that's going somewhere. That is the truth. That's the secret. Nothing complicated about that.
So the buy-in is based on communication fundamentally.
Yeah, and reality checks.
Okay.
This is where we're going. How are we trending today? What is it that we can do tomorrow so we're trending better? So a bias to a high-performance challenge, Matt, is the key.
Okay.
A high-performance challenge is about setting the standard. I cannot be the only one setting a standard in the business.
Yep.
I'm the one that leads it.
Yep.
The rest of us are part of. And I can't be better than you. We need to be better than.
Yes.
So tomorrow must be a better day than was today is a high-performance challenge. In my view, in my world, in over 25 years of being a business owner and leading hundreds of businesses, as I'm currently leading the business that I'm in right now, it's got nothing to do with how good I am. It's got to do with my ability, our ability to keep on raising the bar and believing that we can.
Okay.
That's it. So there's nothing tricky about that. And yet so many of us get it wrong.
I was going to say, you make it sound so simple, which it is, I guess, when you break it down, right?
Yep. And business exactly doesn't need to be easy, but it was never meant to be this hard either.
That's an interesting observation. Stefan, where did you grow up?
Grew up in Melbourne, obviously first born to migrant parents of the 1960s. Mum and dad came from Greece in the mid-60s and created a life, created an opportunity as we understand many migrants around the world, but particularly in this part of the world in Australia. So by the early 70s, they had started their own business and just worked hard, and that's all they knew. They didn't go to school. The reason they came to this country was because they just seeked a better quality of life.
At what age did they land in Australia?
They were here in their... Dad was 19 and Mum was 18 when they arrived here.
Wow.
They got married in their... a year later, and I was born and Dad was 21 and Mum was 20. So, as was the case back then, that was their story and their beginnings in a foreign country that took them 40 days in a ship to get to, not having the language, not having the skills, not having anything. And certainly no social media to connect with Mum and Dad back at home, right?
Did you ever ask them why they decided to leave?
Many times, and I was... As a grown-up child and also a child that loved sitting around watching the elders and the more senior people when we got together in family environments, just talk about their reasoning and their journey.
Yeah,
it was always about quality of life, Matt. And I will say it's still in my opinion and one of my greatest drivers for building the business I'm building today. And the reason I got into business coaching to start with 15 years ago was, and I'll get to the story in a moment, was to ensure that every business owner understands what it means to have a better quality of life and what it takes to get there, but also be open and okay that everyone on their team needs to have the same.
Okay.
So the reason why they came out was because they just couldn't make ends meet. They were starving, they were hungry. There was no opportunity in Southern Europe back then, and there were no jobs and big families, and the land couldn't sustain, I guess, a good quality of life.
Okay.
So they made the move. They came here, and good people, great integrity, great ethics, great values, very important parts of being a great person in the world. So they worked hard. They built a business. By the late 80s, 1980s, they were in a position of financial retirement, and they were just in their 40s at that point, as in age.
And they were in the textile business?
They were in a textile manufacturing business.
Yep.
Mum and Dad started that in the 70s, as I said, and they built it to about 110 people on their team by the late 80s.
So it was a significant business.
This thing was a monster, and to be honest with you, I grew up hating that business because Mum and Dad were never home. They just knew how to work harder. They knew nothing different.
Yep.
We had a good quality life as far as the materialistic, and myself and my sister grew up in an environment that always had plenty of things, way more things than Mum and Dad ever had in their early days. And Mum and Dad were very adamant that we needed to succeed in school so that we didn't need to work as hard as them.
So one of their drivers was to provide for you?
Totally.
Okay.
So everything that they missed perhaps in their childhood, they just wanted to make sure there was an abundance of that for, I guess, our family.
Which is interesting, isn't it? Because that's what you feel that you, if I understood, missed when you were young, them being there, is what you're now teaching business owners to do.
And creating a better balance / harmony for it.
There you go.
So there's nothing wrong with being a successful, financially viable, succeeding investor mindset type business.
Yes.
But on the same token, it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Yep.
There has to be that balance. And it's a huge driver. I mean, for us, if you look at our paraphernalia here at Business Benchmark Group, the most important thing we do for our clients is we keep them true to what does a better quality of life mean for you.
Yeah, and you just said.
And how do we use the vehicle of your career or business to get us there?
Yeah.
Nothing else matters. I mean, we can take you to the highs on a global level, and we've got plenty of track record for that in our business. But if you're there and you're lonely and you're having the best bottle of red that's available to you because you can, and you're on your own on that table drinking it, wow, let's just say that's crap.
Yeah.
That's not on.
Being at the helm of a business of any size can be awfully lonely at times. Can't particularly if you don't have partners involved. So.
Yeah, so the paradox for me growing up, Matt, just very quickly, is in 1986 I finished my Year 12 studies and got accepted to a university course, and again, that was the ultimate prize for Mum and Dad. So as a virtue of that, I guess that outcome for me, they bought me a brand new BMW coupe as a reward and just a thank you that I was able to get to school and get to the point of university and what have you. Now, that was an interesting situation because 5 years later, in the early 90s, we needed to sell that car to put food on the table.
Interesting.
So from the period of the late 80s to the very early 90s, Mum and Dad went from being financially retired. They didn't need to work because they needed more money.
Yeah, I'm going to ask respectfully why.
Because they invested in properties, they had cash flow at a level, their mortgage was paid for. So they really did well financially. Yep. They still were working hard though. They knew nothing else. All they knew was that they were the leaders of that business.
Yep.
And it was a pancake structure. It was them.
Yep.
And then 110 people.
Right.
There was no rules of delegation. There was no organisational chart. There was nothing, again, not because they didn't trust. Actually, they trusted too much, and hence why they ended up losing.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Yeah, so was there a reason why their business had a downward turn?
Yes. In the late 80s, there was an element in Australia of people losing a lot of money.
Yep.
Now, the reason my parents lost a lot of money is because they trusted some people. So their terms of trade with their customers was a handshake versus a contract.
Yep.
Their ability to ensure that there was some clear rules of engagement. So they trusted people they should not have. They had got into property deals they had never should have. They were never equipped, I guess, from a education perspective as to how to make those investor type decisions. So when that recession that Australia needed to have occurred, as many people back then, Mum and Dad were part of that wash up.
Yep.
So I was living overseas at this point. I'd graduated from my university degree. I'd gone overseas. I decided to live there for a period, and I was on my way back to my sister's wedding, and this was early 1991, and I came home to realise that our home that we had grown up in, was almost on mortgagee. It was going to be mortgagee auctioned by the bank.
So times were bad financially.
Oh, they'd gone from 110 people to 4 people in the space of 2 years.
Yep.
So if that's a paradox of what happens versus what could happen, if you've got no structures in place in your business, that's a really good example. So reluctantly, when I got back and realised what was going to happen, I had to step in. Not because, I was just really good at reading books and finishing exams at a high level. Mm-hmm. I was never in the real world ready for what I needed to step into.
Did you ever work in that business out of interest?
I
Before this point?
I was involved in doing some part-time work with bookkeeping and helping mum and dad with payroll. I had 3 other part-time jobs when I was doing my university degree, and whatever. So I was okay in working, and I had a work ethic, but I didn't understand running a business and growing business. Okay. So I took that business over in 1992.
Okay, so after the downturn had occurred.
So 1991 Christmas, I was here.
Yep.
1992, I step in to take over. We'd gone down to 4 people.
Yep.
And 2 of those people were mum and dad.
Yep.
Right? I step in on only one proviso. If I'm stepping in, I need someone to help me make better decisions as to what we do going forward.
How accepting of they were with you coming in under that proviso? Because that could be, I'm not saying it was, but it could be an emotional set of, I suppose, problems could arise under those conditions or set of circumstances.
And I constantly ponder on what may have happened if their circumstances were different.
Right.
If mum and dad had a choice, in other words, they didn't have the turnaround they did at that point.
Yes.
Firstly, I don't think I would have got involved because I grew up hating that business.
Yep.
And for the next 10 years, as you'll hear in a moment, I continued hating it every day.
Sorry to interrupt your story.
No,
Continue.
that's fine.
Yeah.
The fact that there was no choices and it was brick walls and stones, there was no choice for them to, okay, you know what? It's up to you. We're going to follow the lead. I said, if it's up to me, I've read some books and I've gone, okay, we need to put on someone that's going to help us. Now, back in then, we're talking early 90s, there was no such thing as business coaching. Business coaching is a very recent industry on a global level and definitely in Australia. So back then, it was a mentor that we brought in. It was someone that was very great, very seasoned, and ultimately was not going to be my best friend. So along the journey with mum and dad was this gentleman that, again, I had with my minimal involvement in previous years, had just built a little bit of a relationship with, and his name was Basil Port, and he ended up, coming on board to be a mentor. And nothing more, nothing less. Just be someone that I bounce. Okay, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think?
And was it a paid full-time position? Was it come in once a week? Or
so? No. It was it was a fortnightly meeting that we had in place.
Like how
a lot of what happens back then is followed through and filtered through for me.
Right. Yep.
So it was a fortnightly situation. It was definitely paid. The one thing I learnt very early, and it was on the back of some of Basil's teachings, was 50% of something successful is way better than 100% of something that's not. So you've got to be okay to invest. And having the right people in the right places, getting paid the right money, being clear about their right responsibilities, will always deliver the right results.
Okay.
But the key to that was getting paid the right money.
Yeah.
And a lot of business owners, definitely my parents, did not do that. So these were early learnings in terms of my first steps into running a business. Mm-hmm. So it was definitely a paid role at the expense of me and, in many cases, mum and dad taking money home to put food on the table.
So the first few years you were struggling.
The first 4 years, Matt, we paid back $700,000 to everyone that we owed money to.
Oh wow!
At the expense of us taking a wage home. So we had advisors at that turning point that said, you know what, just file for bankruptcy and you'll be fine. We decided not to do that because there were small business owners that we couldn't take to the cleaners because of our inability to make better decisions or safeguard the business.
Did you at that point, you just said you failed to make better decisions. Did you take ownership of that?
Totally.
So
for the
there's
next
no
4
blame,
years,
there's no blame game going on.
Oh, there was definitely interesting conversations behind closed walls at
Yeah.
home in the kitchen.
Yep.
And there was plenty of moments of frustration where, amongst, I guess, the three of us, mum, dad and I, and occasionally my sister, we would say, I can't believe you've put me in this situation. And for me, it was the time that I was going to be kicking off my career at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I sacrificed to get mum and dad and the family back in a position where we needed to make, something out of a bad situation to get mum and dad back to a better choice.
Yeah.
So the first 4 years were tough, hence why we had to sell the BMW to put food on the table.
Yeah.
I remember those days. I would be going out with my friends and my mates, and we would be going out, and I'd be drinking water because I wasn't in a position to shout back if I was shouted.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So anyway, and I've got to say, that occurred for the next 10 years. So the first 4 years were tough.
Yep.
And if I didn't have Basil to just support me mentally and emotionally, but also teach me some of the fundamental feet on the ground, the stuff that I didn't know around financial literacy. I mean, I did I completed a commerce degree. I studied economics, accounting and legal at a university level. But in fairness, I was just good at reading books and completing exams, right?
Can you remember any single lesson that Basil taught you from a financial point of view?
Totally. He taught me that no good going and winning a $1 million contract if it's going to cost us $1.1 million to get there.
Okay.
So let's understand what the cost of goods sold are and confirm what the gross profit should be.
Yep.
And from there, let's not pimp our ride by, let's say, I'll give you a recent example. You don't need an Apple computer if you're a tradesman.
Yeah.
You just need a good Dell computer.
Because they're too expensive and they get broken and all that.
If you're a web designer,
yep,
or you're into graphic design, you need an Apple computer, which costs $2,000 more than a Dell computer.
Yeah.
So that's a good example of pimping your ride.
Yep.
So he taught me about running it lean. He also taught me that no one gets rich by cutting expenses.
Because eventually you reach zero and you're stagnant, right?
Or
In
by
theory,
cutting
that was
expenses, you need to work harder at being what? The best employee.
Yeah.
So you need to become a better investor of your money at every level of your business.
So on the expense side, it's very short-term gain, but it runs out. But on the investment side, there's unlimited potential, right?
No, it's a mindset. Every dollar we invest in our business.
Yep.
This
so you're talking about
simple.
investment into your own business.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, okay, got it. Yep.
If I'm going to spend money with you, Matt.
Yep.
If I'm going to invest in you, Matt.
As an employee of your
there's
business.
the two different words.
Yeah.
If I'm going to spend money on you, if I'm going to invest in you, Matt, which one do you think has a better opportunity for success?
Well, investment, and it comes with it,
Which one also forces me to think, what am I talking about?
Investment, yeah.
So that forces me to be more strategic
Yep.
and more tactful. Every dollar we spend in our business, these are the lessons. These are the primary lessons I learned, and they're all in my books too. Every dollar we invest in our business is about keeping the current customer that we have,
Yep.
or creating a new one.
Okay.
Even the toilet paper that we invest in every week in our business,
Yep.
the water that we supply to our team, the milk that we buy for our team, that can be either an expense or that can be an investment. It depends on how you think about it. So every dollar we spend in our business is either going to help you keep a customer you have or get you a new one. Period. Every line on the profit and loss statement should be viewed that way. So there's some of the fundamental, feet on the ground, rigid, hard edge type of lessons that I learnt in my early day that still continue to this day to be the lessons that we teach great businesses run by good business owners that eventually become great business owners, leading good teams that follow great systems that become great people on someone else's team, growing great systems to another level. Lift the standard, some of the fundamentals. Took me 10 years to turn that business around.
Yep.
We ended up growing that business back to 70 people.
Okay.
In an in-house benchmark business model for Australia.
So you were putting this model that you now teach together under real conditions.
Correct. And that was my first example of doing it in real life, unbeknown to me. that it was going to become my launching pad to growing something that's influencing right now thousands of people and thousands of families.
Yeah.
Called my business coaching business.
Yeah.
You know, helping people have a better quality of life has a ripple that's far more. You know, we measure in our business how many people do we influence in employment every single year. One of our internal KPIs is how many more can we influence. That's only on the back of if we help greater business owners, greater business leaders keep on being better at what they do so that they're needing more people to be delivering their product or service, then the more of the more of the more equals abundance. That's an awesome KPI, and we celebrate that on a quarterly and definitely an annual basis.
Okay.
We measure that number, how many people are involved,
Yep.
and are given job security,
Yep.
which helps people pay mortgages, put food on the table, belong to something, going somewhere. It's absolutely remarkable. That's an internal KPI of ours. We measure that. So over the next 10 years, the first 4 years were challenging. At about the 4th year mark, Nike engaged us as a supplier to this project. On the back of that, doing whatever it takes to deliver on time and on budget for Nike. In 1995, 96 that was.
And that was a pretty... Nike were significantly growing their
They were just
in Australia, right? Or
Yeah.
just about to enter that real expansion phase.
Yeah, totally. That's when, you know, that brand just went boom, boom.
Yeah.
And then boom.
Yeah.
They so in 1995, 96, it would have been around that time, we just kept on, you know what, they were on my top 10 hit list of that would be an ideal customer that we want to serve. That is an ideal profile of a customer we need to supply to. So on the back of just, you know, healthy harassment, let's call it,
Yep.
and value contribution, value, whatever it takes, turning up as and when I said I would and 5 minutes sooner, right?
Yeah.
We ended up getting a project. It was their first toddler range in Australia for Nike. And
wow.
So we delivered that, and we were exceptional in how we did that. And we had a lot of learnings. And we had to call on everyone we knew in Melbourne to ensure we got that delivery done. And on the back of that, fast forward the next 6 years, we actually, that became our number one customer as we became the number one provider in Australia for product that was manufactured in Australia.
Right.
So on a monthly basis, we were delivering 20 to 25,000 units across T-shirts, polo tops, sweaters, hoodies, tracksuit pants. We were the major supplier to the Sydney Olympics 2000. When Reebok failed in their contract and Nike had to be called in as the last minute saviour, as the apparel sponsor, we stepped in to be their major supplier in Australia because the time was very tight. We were the guys who created the prototype for the Kathy Freeman running suit that she eventually
Oh,
wore.
is that right? The hooded suit?
We had Carl Lewis visit our facility amongst many celebrities and identities in the sporting world.
Yeah.
Our factory was one of the ones that they were visiting, and we were a code of conduct factory, which we took the risk with Nike to create that. Remember how they were always challenged around unfair labour and
having shoes made for 3 cents and all this sort of stuff. Yeah.
In fairness, that was they were the best version of keeping it above board than anyone else in the market. Now, on the back of Nike being our number one customer and all the systems and all the progression, and we were building team now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Building everything that we shared in the first part of our interview, which is what we teach our clients right now. Nike knocks on the door. Puma knocks on the door. New Balance knocks on the door. We became the principal supplier to the Australian Open, the AFL, the NRL. They ended up being our customers on the back of building reputation of being an organisation that delivered on time and on budget and a little bit more than what we promised.
Okay.
But we had a professionalism approach. At a time when Southeast Asia and manufacturing in China and Vietnam and parts of India were becoming a genuine choice in the apparel industry.
Yeah, they were starting to get really good at that point, yeah.
And also one of the issues why Mum and Dad failed in the late 90s. So just to bring this story to a bit of a conclusion for you, so for the 10 years that I was obviously leading and ultimately being where the buck stopped, my number one goal, regardless of how exciting the business became, I still turned up, in my mind, hating that business every day.
Even after all that?
Yeah, every day. It was not my choice to be there. And my only get out of jail card was the moment Mum and Dad were in a position where they had some choice, we were selling and we were getting out. So we had about 4 or 5 attempts in selling the business. Mm-hmm. We did eventually sell it to a chap that was working within the business, and he now runs it out of Fiji.
Oh, yeah.
And does a very successful job, from what I hear, in continuing to grow what he's growing, and he's doing an awesome job. In saying that, though, knowing what I know right now and being a student and a voice of, just get out of the way, mate. Let this thing go. It's okay to be the investor. You've done all the hard work. Let someone below you or bring someone in that's going to manage this thing to take it to the next level or the next generation. Just get out of the way. Knowing what I know right now, and this is 2017, let's just say, I should never, ever have sold that business.
Oh, okay. So you regret selling it?
Right now I do.
Right.
So we did, and the year was about 2002. By the time we got out of that, officially it was early 2003. I was at the crossroads with a whole heap of other businesses and major events supply. We were a supplier to major event companies who were creating major golf events throughout the world. The Qantas Classic was one of them. So we used to manufacture golf bags, umbrellas, polo tops on behalf of Qantas, Sony, BMW, blah, 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 blah. Their major events, corporate golfing events, were in Las Vegas. We were shipping containers there. Great business, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We would occasionally be invited to some of those events as merchandise suppliers. Got into hospitality businesses. But in 2005, I met that guy at a barbecue that said, mate, you know what? You have an extreme passion around business, and for the last 20 minutes, you've just blown my mind about, oh my God, what are you doing? And he goes, I need to introduce you to a couple of people. And that was the commencement of, I guess, getting into what was back then in 2005 known as the business coaching industry. In my mind, it was always mentoring that I was referencing. And when I realised that this was an industry that ultimately was a business and a business model, I got in, and I haven't looked back. I've been involved in some amazing organisations at the highest level. I've been a master licensor in partnership with Brad Sugars, who in fairness has to be credited with being the godfather of business coaching for small, medium enterprise in the world. Brad Sugars and I sort of parted ways a couple of years ago, but I'm still on his call list as he's on mine, and we have a strong relationship. I entered as a business coach when I joined Action Coach, and therefore to this day I continue being an owner and a leader of a business strategy business coaching business. And it's the people you meet along the way that definitely define who you are, and how you handle and deal with relationships, how you deal with adversity, and how you turn that into a positive and make it a positive, how you deal negative into positive, how you ensure you deal with the grit and the resilience needed to persevere through tough times, through tough situations, through tough conversations. But if there's one thing I can definitely share with you, Matt, that ultimately defines everyone's opportunity to look at the upside, and I refer to this as the paradox of negotiation. And my current mentor, the great and the most amazing Keith Cunningham, who I'm so fortunate to have in my corner.
Oh, so you work with...
So Keith is my mentor, and I visit him 3 times a year. And,
okay. He's come up on this podcast before, yeah.
So Keith, who has been in my corner for over 10 years, and in fairness, I've invested in over $1.5 million, that's US dollars, in my education, right? Since university, that is.
Yeah.
And many people say, why are you so successful? And I just keep on investing in the things I don't know.
Yeah.
I keep on being okay to be told, hang on, why don't you look at it this way? And every time I get that 1 or 2 minutes of wisdom from people I respect, And people I've given an opportunity to give me that feedback because that's a paid role.
Yeah.
I'm never going to get that at the bar, dipping into my 3rd jar of peanuts, having my 6th pot.
Yeah.
I'm only going to get it from people that have been there and done that.
Yeah.
But the paradox of success is this. In order for me to get what I want, I've got to be okay to give you what you want.
Yeah.
And in small business, because of the lack of not knowing what you need to know or looking at things from a different angle, we just feel that if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And that is the one anchor or glass ceiling that's always going to get in your way. So firstly, you've got to be an investor in understanding what are the things that I don't know. How is it that I can use words to my advantage, but also our advantage? How is it that I become a little more curious as to what is and what could be my opportunity versus being the reason why there is no opportunity? However, I'm frustrated because I want that opportunity, but I don't know how to get it, but I'm not prepared to put my hand up to say, help.
Yeah.
The better you get at saying the word help, which is one of the most powerful words in the English language, the better you'll be to turn what is a broken and or a crossroad, whatever that is for you, to something that is unbelievable within 260, within 520, and potentially 1,040 weeks. And in my experience, you can turn something from what is to what could be, point A to point B, in 520 weeks, from the moment you get serious about putting your hand up, about your crossroad, no matter where you are on the chart, you can turn something absolutely amazing for what could be the next greatest Australian story, not because that's your goal, because that's your opportunity. The moment you can do what you do in Australia really well, the moment you can do what you do really well in your backyard, you can also do it in the rest of the world, and it's not up to you to make that happen. It's up to you with the key in the vault to make sure you're opening that door and just be curious as to, okay, that's cool. I'm the investor. What do we need to invest in?
Yeah.
That's all. And I'm so fortunate to be leading a business as an example for everything we teach and coach. We eat from our own cooking. Everything we do in our business here at Business Benchmark Group, led by me and followed through by people that are way better than me, is exactly what we coach and teach. In the first instance, our business owners, and thereafter their chosen leadership teams.
Yeah.
And that's the game.
Just a couple more questions and then we'll wrap up, Stefan, because we've got a lot out of this session this morning. In addition to learning, is there anything that you do consistently, maybe outside of work, that allows you to be your best at work? Whether that be an exercise program or a diet or meditation, or is there any element that you really rely on to be efficient here?
Okay, so my principal driver, and my ultimate number one value item in my hierarchy of values is family. However, family cannot be looked after if I'm not looking after my health.
That's come up a few times, yeah.
So 3 times a week at 5:30 in the morning, I'm involved in a personal training program for which I invest in people to ensure I'm doing one more push-up than I could have if I was doing it on my own.
Yep.
And it's 5:30 in the morning because gone are the days where I thought I can do it in the evening, and evening time is to be invested with my family and my younger children, particularly when I'm at home. So 3 times a week I am invested in a program called Heavy Haulers, which is an unbelievable program that, you're going against your own pace, but you're pushing against your own mental strength as to how hard, how fast, how far you can go. Awesome program. And twice a week I'm involved in martial arts and continue to be an avid student of martial arts, which gives me the meditation / spiritual aspect to just body and mind.
Yeah.
I'm at a level where I also teach martial arts, and again, that's not about being brute force. That's about using the power of the mind and the aspect of self-defense versus self-attack. And it plays out in business. A fit body will always serve a fit mind. A fit mind will definitely lead a fit body.
Yeah.
You cannot take the pressures of business and ultimately life without having a balance between, family life, business life, health and body, personal. That's my space. That's my zone, individual time.
Yeah.
You can't have individual time mixed in with everyone else's time. You still need to isolate that. So I call that zone time, and that's what I do. I eat well, I drink well, I sleep well, I have fun well, and everything's in moderation. I don't do the diet thing to a point where, everything's in moderation.
Yep.
I enjoy what life has on offer. I'm also not an extremist.
Yep. Probably a best way to be, right?
70%.
Oh, yeah, come back to the calendar. Very good. Now, do you think much about the transfer of what you know to your children in terms of a business sense?
In terms of a life sense and what you stand for sense.
Okay.
And understanding the tool that is money.
Yes.
Is a life sense, not a business sense. The power of what that tool can do versus what you want it to do is a very distinct difference.
Yep.
There comes a time in life where the tool called money and quality of life meet an overspill. How you behave and how you're conditioned to behave is a life skill, not a money skill.
So
or a business skill, in other words.
If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
So my eldest is 14.
Okay.
He's he's in year 9. He's a middle school captain and a progressed leader in sport, in academia, and in social. In other words, he's a very balanced young man.
Yep.
Currently on a leadership program away from home for 12 weeks. Mum's not happy about that. Dad's okay, although has been missed for the first 3 weeks, but he's cool. Our youngest boy, he's 12 years old and year 7, and again, different profile, different character, but a leader and a classroom leader at that. Extroverted, very intelligent, but test the boundaries. So knowing what I know and the power of it's okay for people to have different personalities or behavioural traits. The way I communicate with my youngest boy, Harris, is slightly different to the way I communicate with my eldest boy, Stephen.
Right.
Because I understand they're two different behaviours.
Yeah.
Neither is right, neither is wrong. Understanding that and being a student of that allows me to have a great relationship with both. Albeit, I'm in a position where I need to still be their best father and best coach, which doesn't always have me being the most favourite person in the home every single time.
Yeah, I think
so. I've learnt from my younger days, Matt, and it's interesting how it comes full circle. And it's quite interesting having Stephen away from home, and he has restricted communication, and he chooses not to communicate. I remember my mum saying, "Hey, you're going on that holiday with your friends, please stay in touch with us." And I used to say to her, "I'm only going to ring you if there's something wrong." Yeah, it's like, holy shit, now I know what it felt like. Yeah. And watching my wife, my beautiful wife, who's an awesome, I guess, trait to my success and reason for my success and our success, full stop, having a successful home life will definitely lead to so many things. So what I pass on to my children is decency, being okay that someone you may be speaking to or something you expect from someone doesn't go the way you planned. Yeah. It's got nothing to do with you. It's how you ultimately communicated or understood what was their issue or challenge or decision not to do something that you expected them to do. Yeah. So teaching them that is not so much teaching them tolerance of mediocrity, but it's teaching them that people are different. Yeah. And if you want something for someone else to do more than they do, there's a challenge. Yeah. Sometimes it's your challenge, not theirs. Yeah. Yeah. Does that make sense?
I think I have very young kids at the moment, but I think that there'd be a lot of parents listening to this who understand exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and the exciting thing is we're just creating a program, and it's going to be launched in 2018, where we're actually inviting our business owner clients with their children between the ages of 12 and 17 to do a weekend retreat and focusing on the fundamentals. This stuff that I just shared with you. The power of communication. The acceptance of social media or those devices and aspects of our children, millennials' life. It's part of their life now. So maybe not creating brick walls around it and us against them and taking it away from them versus how do we collaborate? Yeah. But on the same token, how do our young children collaborate with parents and just bridge what is right now maybe a rifting, I guess, wedge as far as it's parents not understanding children and children not understanding parents. Interestingly enough, Matt, I was just coming up and one of our clients, I bumped into one of our clients who said, hey, did you hear what happened? And because I'm a school president at the local school, one of our students tragically passed away last week. And the principal was talking about it but didn't go into details. And I haven't had a chance to figure out or ring John to figure out what exactly happened. It was a Year 11 student. And I'm going to share this, and I'm not meaning to, cause any grief across this interview, and choose to include it if you wish. Yeah. As part of the editing, I'll say this now. But in a 3-second conversation I had downstairs, I was told what exactly happened. And this young child, someone's son, someone's brother, decided to jump in front of a moving train last week. And I couldn't think of anything worse. And the number of incidences and challenges that are going on right now for many young people and even middle-aged and later-aged people. And there's a greater conversation around mental illness and the black dog and I just think one way of dealing with it is just opening up the channels of communication, opening up the different ways of communicating. And you don't need to necessarily be an expert at this. You just need to be open to having a much more viable conversation as to what's going on. And I'm a true believer that no different to what our parents did in their era and what they knew, no different to us being parents, and there's no book on this, and what we do to our children, and ultimately the peer pressure in this day and age and the instant gratification seeked. I just think the better we just break down the barriers, that there's nothing right, nothing wrong. It's just the conversation on the table. Yeah. And our responsibility as parents and or influencers for the younger generation is open up the channels of communication. There's times to be assertive and times to say, hang on, right from wrong. But maybe let's choose a different way of communicating that. Don't need to dance around the fire, or I'm not advocating, and I'm certainly not an example of the Marshmallow Club. Yeah. But I'm also about the hard edge of the way it used to be done. It's changing.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's hundreds and thousands of people around the world in our backyard, in the story that I was just exposed to, which again, knowing the family but not knowing exactly what happened, because it's only last Thursday that this happened. Oh wow! I knew it happened in the community. I got some feedback as to it happened and some of the things that needed to happen in that school community and supporting community around it, but I just haven't had a chance to find out the extreme detail. So listening to what Christine just shared with me downstairs and preparing for our conversation right now, front of mind for me, it's like, it's not worth it if you get to the top and you've got that sort of situation surrounding you. So parents, business owners, business leaders, just decent people everywhere, let's just open the communication channels. And it just doesn't have to be left to the experts. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to be open to a different way of communication. And I think when it's all done and dusted in my career, in my journey, in this stage of my life, moving into the next, that's children and the ability to keep on giving them a platform for a better version or a higher standard of who they are today, knowing full well that we're not judging them. Yep. They don't need to judge themselves either. I think, in my opinion, that's my journey as to, what is it that I see being my contribution in the next phase. And I'm talking, I'm in my late 40s now. Yep. I'll keep on doing what I'm doing because I love what I'm doing till the death. And, my job, my opportunity takes me around the world. I've written 2 great books. There's a third one in writing. But I feel the ability to share with great business owners, awesome business owners, up and coming, unbeknown to them, amazing business owners, the ability to communicate and be better for their community, their immediate community, to help the next generation coming through knowing that they have someone to talk to, without being judged. I see that as a rite of passage, and I'm really, not so much because of what I just heard then, because that's disturbing, and I don't want that influencing what I'm sharing. But there's an opportunity for more of us doing more, and there are some great programs being delivered right now, but there's room for more.
I agree. There's a real that space. There's a lot of room to do a lot, as you just said, and I know of a few people who are really starting to look at that that youth, teenage sort of age group, and going, you know what, there's a lot we could be assisting with and helping with here. So full credit to you moving into that space and trying to help. That's admirable. One question I was, or changing tracks a little bit, one question I ask everyone, if you could have one law changed, what would it be?
Once you hit your first $1 million in revenue in business, you get a $100,000 business coaching grant delivered by people that have grown at least 4 businesses and succeeded with at least 3 of them in their life.
And that would be some sort of government grant, I mean, without getting into the political
from a capitalist perspective, not a socialist perspective.
Fair enough. Do you have
and hence why I said the first $1 million, not I've got an idea, give me $20,000 to see where I go.
You got to get some runs on the board.
That one failed. Let me do it again.
Yeah.
The handout mentality is not. I believe that your first $1 million in business is the hardest education you'll ever have. When you get there, you're a little bit more seasoned to ensure the next $1 million does not need to be as hard.
Yeah. Do you have any book recommendations except for your own? And I must say that I've almost finished From Deadwood to Diamonds. It's there's a lot in that book. It's a lot coming at you, I've got to say. So if that was your intention in writing it, then you've done a great job.
It took me 3 years to write the first one, and I thank you for saying that. And I'd never endorse my books as the books to read, just to be clear on that.
Yep.
But it took me 3 years to write that, and I always came from a point of view, if I picked it up, as I do many books, will this keep me going for that extra half an hour, even though I was fighting sleep, to keep on reading? So that was the intention with the first book, From Deadwood to Diamonds, in 2014. It took me 3 years to write that, as it took me 2 and a bit years to write the second book, How to Grow a Business, and ultimately delivering it at a diamond standard. So both books, in fairness, and the most recent book, the feedback we get from a global perspective is, wow, like, it's not a game changer. I never intended them for them to be game changers, but they're so relative to the audience that reads it that it's like, wow, got so much out of that, and it still keeps on in a fundamental sort of way serving. So if there's one book that I believe is worth reading, and you've made it challenging because you've said one, and it's an easy one because it's written in a fable style. It's Patrick Lencioni's book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team.
Oh, yep.
I'd love if you asked me 5 books, but I'm going to honour your...
Give me one more, because I sense that you've got a couple more up your sleeve there.
Now you've made it hard again. Okay, the next one will definitely be Good to Great.
Oh, yeah, Jim Collins. Is that right?
Good to Great, yeah. Jim Collins.
Yeah, I've read that one, yeah.
That's a great book too, but I think you need to be at a slightly elevated level to really understand that.
Well,
just slightly.
There's some public, or most of them are public examples.
Just slightly elevated. So The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Patrick Lencioni, it's about 170 pages. It's written in a fable, so it's like a story about a makeup business and what happens.
Yep.
And it's an easy read, but it's just some real home truths about the importance of great systems, good people. Great people, great systems, influencing great systems, becoming better systems. The game of business is lifting the standard.
If someone wants to get in contact with you, Stefan, is interested in what you do, where's the best place to find you?
So businessbenchmarkgroup.com.au is a great way to connect and, or, again, in a subtle sort of way, be kept up to date with our messaging. We'd write an awesome piece every Saturday morning. We call it a brain stretch every Saturday morning. It goes out at 7 a.m. By 7:04 you're done, but you're thinking about, okay, cool, that works for me.
Yep.
And how do I ensure I keep on making it work for me? So that's an easy thing to get enrolled in. We have a business health check on the on that website on the first page as well, which is an awesome investment of 3 minutes, just asking you a different set of questions about your current business and where you rank and or sit. On the back of that, you'll get a conversation going with one of our internal team, no obligation, just to ensure you understand your score and what, if anything, you could do next. Some of that ends up being clients of ours. Some of them are just getting some good advice, and that's cool. See, we can't want it more than them. And the other way you can get in touch with me is through my actual personal name, stefankazakis.com. So
I'll make it
at
note of both those
stefankazakis.com, either of those websites. And our motto, as I said earlier, Matt, is just make it easy for people to get engaged, make it easy for people to buy. So we never sell. It's definitely about making it easy for people to buy.
Yeah.
Every one of our clients are very intelligent, very smart, very progressed people. We just help them understand the next bit doesn't have to be a home run. It's just the next level of progression.
Awesome. Well, Stefan, I'm going to let you get back to your day because I know that you've got a lot more in your calendar that needs to get done. Thanks for carving out a little bit of time to do this. I want to make a quick mention of Russell Beard, who made this connection and helped this come together. It's been awesome, and cheers, mate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt. Awesome. Thank you for the interview.